And we always say never stop. That's when you lose time. Always keep moving. And it's the same thing running a business. You have to like always look ahead and keep moving and believe in what you're doing, and then learn from whatever mistake either you do or other does to move forward. It's an interesting future for sure, and I'm very glad that I'm part of it.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a swim run podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 181 of the show. We've got a great show for everyone this week. Joining us just a few days after ÖTILLÖ Utö is the new ÖTILLÖ race director, Staffan Björklund. We had a wide-ranging conversation about his stout adventure racing and swimrun roots, his love for the sport, and what the future holds as he begins to write the next chapter in the storied history of ÖTILLÖ.
The episode you've all been waiting for, basically.
Yes.
It's here.
Yes. And he was awesome. It was actually really cool.
It was a great conversation.
It was very great.
Yeah.
It's very,
I don't know.
great.
We shouldn't bury that in the front. It was amazing. But first, training update. So Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay is just a few weeks away. Stoke levels are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
First race of the year. First swimrun race of the year. We had a big training week. We had a nice three-day. Chris had 4-day in a row because he moved some swims around. Nice solid weekend block of training, which included long swimming, long running, and a Monday swim run, which is something we don't get to do too often.
Yeah, our new little training ground is working out for us.
It is. I've been enjoying it. So it was windy, so we were dealing with a little chop, which I was grateful. I mean, at the time it wasn't great, but I was like, oh, this is good prep for Casco, because those Casco swims can be stout.
Choppier the better.
Absolutely. So we only have another week or so of giving it the gas before we start tapering, just in time for 4th of July.
Yeah.
So
taper with 4 cheeseburgers.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple free
Beyond
fries.
burgers.
Yeah, I'll take a Beyond Burger. Actually, this year Chipotle's catering. Just gonna hit easy mode. Just Chipotle. Makes everybody happy. Sure. Why am I telling everyone that? I have no idea.
It'll inspire some memes, though.
It will. Now we're going to just incoming Chipotle memes. Now for this week's shout out.
Yeah, this week we're shouting out 3 new patrons on Patreon. All new. Amazing. So thank you, Liza, Mike, and Tom. We see you. We appreciate your support for our brand of super niche content. And actually, Mike and Liza, this is exclusive for you. This Sunday, I'm going on vacation with my family after the show airs. Show comes first, sure, and then then family vacation. But I'm going to be in Southern California Sunday morning. I'm getting a personal tour of swimrun action where the Tower 26 crew, the swimrun crew goes. So we're going to meet up and going to do a swimrun with them. She'll be pretty fun, and a bunch of them are doing Casco as well. So
I like it.
Be good.
Nice. Now for the wisdom. Also, thank you for being a Patreon, of course. Now for wisdom nugget of the week. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca.
Yeah, it's never as bad as...
I gotta say, if we're being vulnerable on the show, this is one of my main downfalls. I make it the worst thing imaginable in my head, and then when it actually happens, it's like, hey, that was not even like a fraction of what it was. And so I've been trying to remind myself of that whenever I start to, everyone has their own thing. I call it like, oh, I'm spiraling.
Yeah, it's like, you ruminate towards the negative.
Yeah.
Whereas you could just as easily ruminate towards the positive.
And, and they're like, well, that's the worst thing that can happen. Have you thought about the best thing? And I'm like, you know what? Actually, I did not, which is that's not a good thing. I could work on it. I should listen to Seneca a little bit more often, but Chris, great nuggets.
Thanks,
great
man.
Nuggets, man. Is this some personal chipper psychology infiltration here?
I don't know if it's working.
Yes. It's working? Okay. Awesome. Now for this week's feats of endurance and sort of pseudo this week in swimrun. So this week we're giving a blanket award to everyone that swim ran over the weekend. There were events all over Europe, including ÖTILLÖ's first event of the season, ÖTILLÖ Utö, Swimrun Côte de Vermeer. Are you Solopet Swimrun?
Yep.
Love Swimrun Lamberus, Tali Lynn Swimrun, and Langholmen Swimrun. Longholmen Swimrun.
Yeah, the A with the little circle on top makes it like a O sound.
Honestly, that all looked. I'm surprised I got
good
through
job.
that. So,
Strong work.
Congrats to everyone that raced. All I saw on Instagram, it's swimrun seasons here.
Yeah,
it's just videos, happiness all over.
Yeah,
It's
swimrun
the
season
Stoke
/
levels high.
FOMO season.
Yeah, the FOMO season. If you're not doing a swimrun every weekend like these 5 or 6 races we had, bonus award goes to Pete Jervis for racing the Wales double.
I'm not sure that's a thing, but
It is now.
it's now. Yeah,
It is now a thing. So he did the swimrun Landbrus on Saturday, and then the Tally Lynn swimrun on Sunday. Love back-to-back swimrun days.
You know what?
It's good for you. It's good for the mind, good for the soul, good for the body.
Yep, and it's good for if you're going to go travel. It's like, hey, you can bust out a couple swim runs on a weekend in
Nice.
Wales.
Way to go, Pete. So be like Pete and all other swim runners in the Low Tide Boys Strava Club. Go to Strava, search Low Tide Boys, and join the fun all around. Give and receive kudos on a regular basis. Low Tide Boys Strava Club. It's free.
It is.
Now on to show business.
If you're racing Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay in a few weeks, or just love hearing the sounds of our voices, I'm sure that's not the reason. Make sure to check out our bonus course preview episode that is out now. Spoiler alert, we got confirmation from the race directors that the 2023 courses will be the same as 2022. So we'll be resharing a leg-by-leg breakdown by the one and only John Stevens, plus giving, updating folks a little bit on what's going on. So make sure you check out that bonus episode in your podcast feed.
Yeah, literally below, somewhere very close proximity to where you're
Extremely
listening to
close.
this, either on top of or below.
Yes.
Now, let's get into our conversation with new ÖTILLÖ race director, Staffan Björklund.
Yeah, it was really great to chat with Staffan, honestly, just a few days after Utö, which was his first official event as the new race director for ÖTILLÖ. In this conversation, we talked about Michael and Mats's legacy and their impact on him, his vast swimrun experience, and love for the sport, ÖTILLÖ's plans for the future, which was really, really great to hear, and so much more. We really appreciated his candor, and it's safe to say that, this guy... If we can give any sort of vote of confidence, he's as super stoked on the swim run as the rest of us.
When we were talking with him in my head, all I could think was one of us, one of us, one of us.
He's super stoked.
He just ÖTILLÖ race director is like the perfect job for him. He has a great blend of race directing experience. From all sorts of scale and levels. He loves swimrun. He's been swimrun since its origins. He's worked very closely with ÖTILLÖ race directors of past, and he loves the sport, and he wants to see it grow and be the next big thing, just like we do, and all with protecting the community and leaning into the communal aspect as well.
Yeah, and there was not to spoil it for anyone, but where he starts talking about the World Championship course, I was getting kind of goosebumps, like the way he's describing this thing that we obviously think it's like this amazing quest to Mecca kind of thing. It was great. So great conversation. Folks have been asking for this, so
here it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Staffan, for coming on.
I also he approached, and just his, I don't want to say casual, but he was just ready to have a great conversation with us. So really appreciate his attitude and everything for the interview. But we had a great time, and honestly, I'm more excited than ever for the future of the sport after talking with Staffan. So without any further ado, let's just kick it right over to our conversation. Staffan Björklund, ÖTILLÖ race director.
All right, we're just super stoked to welcome Staffan Björklund to the show. He's the new race director of ÖTILLÖ. He worked at the very first ÖTILLÖ event in 2006. He won ÖTILLÖ Utö in 2013. He's raced the World Championship 7 times, including winning the 2015 edition with previous guest and friend of the pod, Marika Wagner. Welcome to the show, Staffan.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're really happy to have
Absolutely.
you. You've been associated with the sport of swimrun since the beginning. How does it feel to now be, race directing for something that you've been a part of for so long?
Yeah, it's funny actually, because I think that's the most asked question I've gotten. Mm-hmm. So hopefully I can answer it well. But everything have a time in life, and by the time, before this happened, I was looking to push myself and really become a professional swimrun athlete, and I really wanted to push both community and society that swimrun was actually a sport, and that we were training as much as any other professional athlete, and we also wanted to make a living out of it. So that's what I was trying to push for when I was racing. And actually, it's the same thing now by organizing. I'm always thinking about the athletes. How can we create this so our athletes actually can become more professional? Because that would gain both more strength to our brand ÖTILLÖ, but also more strength to the brand Swimrun, and actually be a professional swimrun athlete. It's like a foundation for what I did and what I'm doing now.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you have some really big shoes to fill and continue the work that Michael and Mats began, so long ago now. How important do you see what the role that they will play sort of obviously in the history of the sport, but and you looking forward to sort of this next chapter of ÖTILLÖ, you've known them for a super long time. What did you learn from them, and what are you going to carry forward?
Well, first of all, they've done a tremendous work. Just imagine, they started with a product that didn't exist. Yeah. They didn't know what to call it. There was nothing. They invited the first people to participate, participate 2006, and there were only friends of them that they've been racing against or knew as friends from the adventure racing community. So looking back to that and see what we had on Utö, it's amazing. Who could have guessed? And what they have created during 17 years is very impressive. Especially not just building a brand and building a new sport, just to stay and believe in what they were doing as well. I can't imagine how many times they've been doubting, is this ever going to work? What do we have to do to make swimrun or officially a sport? There must have been so many conversations over the years, and of course, that's hard to compare anything with, because I have never done that. However, I'm really good at organizing big events. And normally, we work when we host adventure racing events in the Adventure Racing World Series. We work normally 10 days, and we sleep less than the athletes that are on course. So we're used to hard work, and filling up shoes. I don't see it that way. I don't have to fill up their shoes. I just have to do. I just have to work hard. And eventually one day someone will say, how do you going to fill up Staffan's shoes?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
It's just hard work and believe in the product. And I think just by saying yes to this, I've shown the community that I definitely believe in swimrun and in the brand of ÖTILLÖ. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah. I've heard you mention a couple times, and I think anyone that's listening is probably music to their ears about you keep mentioning community, and you've been around for a long time, and you've seen the community kind of grow and change. What has been sort of consistent since you first started being involved with swimrun racing and trying to stretch that professional class, if you will, to now, and from a community perspective?
Well, I compare the swimrun community to the adventure racing community. Everyone is very friendly. Everyone know each other. It's a strength to be. I don't know if I will annoy anyone to say this, but it's still a small community compared to the Ironman community or triathlon community. But it's the same thing. I can compare it with Vasaloppet, the most famous cross-country ski race in the world. Mm-hmm. When I did that a few years ago, there was so much hate. Or, what do you say? No one was friendly in the track. Everybody wanted to show elbows and push their way forward. If you show up like Red Bull Nordenskiöldsloppet, which is 3 times the distance, and there was only 600 participants, it's totally different. People are way more friendly. They like to help each other on the course. And when it's that long, it's more than a race. It's an adventure too. And I think that's the strength of swimrun, that it's still small enough to have this friendly community. I think that's going to be the hardest thing, because we want to grow and we want to expand a lot in the next 5 years. And to keep that community as friendly and welcoming as possible will be one tough task. But it's not up to me. It's more up to the people who's joining the community. We can just, host great events that people like. And on site, we will be friendly, and we will offer a lot of fun and safe races. And hopefully that will, infect others to do the same.
That's a good point, and that's definitely something that Chipper and I have talked a lot about, the idea that, one of the things of, we've drank the Kool-Aid on swimrun a long time ago, probably drank out of the same pitcher that
drinking
you did,
it now.
is that, the one of the amazing things about the sport is the community, and it's really up to us to be welcoming, to encourage other people to try it. And you see that from the best athletes, from Max and Hugo to, Desiree and everyone else, that, they actually enjoy being in everyone's company. And I think as the sport grows, we've talked a lot about, it's going to get more professional, it's going to lose its feel and stuff like that. But the fact that it hasn't yet, as the sport has grown, I think it bodes very well for the future. And I'd love to hear more on how ÖTILLÖ is wants to expand, because honestly, more events with the same awesome vibe, sign us up.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I can agree about everything you say. Like, we're on a good path with the community already, and with a slower expansion, I think the community can stay this way. If it's going to happen fast, then it might be a lot of athletes that come in fast and they haven't got the feeling for what we are doing. They bring in another style, and so it be. But I think we have a lot of swim runners now around the world. There's more than 2,000 races, I think, globally now. And we still have this. So the foundation is good to keep the community the way it is. But I'm not strange to see a change either, because sometimes change is good. It depends on what change, and we can't control that. So it is what it is, and as long as we do what we can do, I think, we will be fine. And talking about the expansion, so we have had 11 races in Europe, or 10 in Europe and 1 in Catalina in US. And US is definitely a market where we're looking for a big expansion already for next year. And I can't tell you more than that, but
that's good enough. That got us excited enough.
Yeah, Chipper almost fell out of his chair.
Yeah, US is in our eyesight of course, and then we're also talking to Australia, New Zealand, Abu Dhabi, and South America at the moment. So It's a big expansion, and hopefully we can reveal more of these news before the World Championships in September. And when we know, we will let everyone know. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's not something to keep to yourself.
Yeah, definitely want to let people know.
Yeah, I think that's probably when people first start talking with us. They're like, "Oh, that Catalina is like the big question," and that was a race that Chris and I feel like was really for us as swim runners a very defining race for us, and we kind of we had done a few swim runs before that, but Catalina really gave us that true kind of like ÖTILLÖ style experience with everyone being on the ferry, and a very communal experience, not to mention an ass kicker of a race over there. So we were definitely caught the bug there on that one, and that started our journey to last year, and again this year. We'll see you there. But yeah, definitely music to our ears to hear more races come into the United States potentially.
Yeah, definitely. And Catalina was one of a kind. With the whole setting on that island with a lot of verticals, and then the cold water. I wasn't there, but a bunch of my friends was there, and I only heard good things. So who knows? Catalina might be part of the future. Time will tell, and I'm really looking forward to I think people have a hunger for new destinations. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of same destinations now within the ÖTILLÖ Swimrun World Series, and if you look to the Adventure Racing World Series, the destination is changing every year for every race, and that attracts a lot of people. So we will not change every year, I can promise that, because that's way too much work. And we will show some consistency too. But we're now, we are looking at new destinations, which is fun, not only for me, for the community as well. And for people who worked with ÖTILLÖ previous years. I'm super excited about Engadin within 3 weeks, 10th anniversary, and that's one destination that we will definitely keep, because strategically it's so very well located in the Central Alps, and it's easy to reach from many countries, and there's more like that easy access races that we're looking for, but still in unique places.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good. I like that strategy, because sometimes it's almost a whole event getting to the destination. It feels like sometimes with planes, trains, and automobiles getting there. So I think that will definitely help with the accessibility aspect of it. But Engadin's top 3 on our bucket list, I would say. It's up there. It's definitely up there. So we're glad to hear it's sticking around.
Yeah, I'm going to try to convince Chipper we should do it next year. So
not very hard to convince.
It's definitely, my favorite. I worked a lot in the Engadin Valley. I've been there for over 15, 20 years working as a mountain guide and hiking guide. So I know the valley inside out. And I was actually the one who designed the course and approached Mickey and Mats to convince them to host a race there.
Wow. Nice.
It's just the way it was.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited actually to be back there in 3 weeks and host Engadin. And a lot of people have asked, why, Staffan, are you only race director for the Swedish races? But now I will be at each race, both Engadin and Cannes in October as well. So we were not just thinking about that when we did the contract.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, I mean, that's news to us that you were involved in the planning of Engadin, because, you know, that race is in many ways a very seminal event in the history of swimrun and the history of ÖTILLÖ in particular, being, you know, sort of the first race outside of Sweden. You know, when you talk about expansion, you talk about trying to get more people into the sport and continue the community, obviously growing has, you know, there's pains associated with that. How are you and the rest of the crew at ÖTILLÖ thinking about, well, how can we sustain this growth, and how do we grow in a way that you know, keeps reflecting the values of the sport, you know, in all these different locations?
Yeah, well, it's a good point, you know. It is for sure like something I always have in back of my mind, of because, you know, I have 3 kids, and I'm thinking a lot about their future. And I'm thinking a lot about sustainability, like how can we make these events more sustainable, and maybe how can we make these more valuable, not only for us and our community, maybe other communities as well. And what I've seen organizing other races is that if we bring races to the people instead of people have to travel to us, I've seen a bigger growth faster. So it's definitely a part of the strategy to make it easier, accessible. You don't have to travel as far, but it's still going to be unique. And the destination is still going to be interesting. We will always have, like for Utö Swimrun now, we have 27 nationalities, which is amazing for a race, small race on Utö in Sweden. It's like a world championship in any other sport, you know, that have so many destinations showing, or countries showing up, which is really cool. And so it's still interesting, like to see. We don't have a designated path that we're following. We're definitely looking into new formats, maybe shorter, longer. You know, we're open for most things at the moment, depending on where we want. You know, the community can be one thing in the Oceania region, and then one thing in US and one thing in Sweden. It's still the same, but the path can be different because we have difference in culture and religion and everything. Like it's so natural, and I think that should also be considered when expanding. We have to adopt, because it's part of it. You know, if I travel, for example, to Abu Dhabi, I want to be part of the culture in Abu Dhabi. If there's a race there, I don't want to travel to Abu Dhabi and eat Swedish meatballs at the race. It would be weird. So yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, we're flexible, and we have all these things in mind, and we're open ears to the community as well. I'm talking a lot to swim runners to get their feedback on things, both from the race we just hosted and earlier, and where they want the sport to continue to grow. And we're idle ear, and we like to get feedback.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful because swim runners like to talk. So, you know, it works out great. Now, well, let's talk about Utö. I mean, that just happened. It was It looked amazing. It looked like perfect, way better weather than last year.
Great, yeah.
Tell us how that race went for you, and what was it like to be race director, at this event that you've raced in the past
and won.
Yeah, it was actually 10 years ago I won it, so it was like closing a circle for me being back there, first winning the first event, and then it was the 11th year we hosted the ÖTILLÖ Utö Swimrun, but it was due to COVID we couldn't host 2019, I think it was, we made a lot of changes in the background that maybe people didn't see, but the entire organization was pretty much new. So the biggest change we did was within the organization, how to run it, roles, and things like that. So and then of course we changed the venue, so we took it closer to the harbor, and people seemed to like that a lot. We had the finish line and the start at the same place, and everything was more compact. It was easier to move around. If you needed to go to the bathroom, you didn't need to go across the whole harbor. It was just there, and same for food and everything. So people were happy with the venue. And then, of course, weather was fantastic. It was warm and sunny in the morning, and then 30 minutes after the start, the clouds came in, and it was like overcast for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. So people didn't overheat, which was one of our concerns hosting this event. But it was funny because, the speaker, Isaac, he asked me, when we had just started the sprint and the experience category, and he asked me, Staffan, are you always this calm as a race director? And I asked, what do you mean? Well, I've been at many other events, and not only swimrun and ÖTILLÖ events, other events as a speaker. And he said, normally the race director is running around here and doing a lot of other things. And I'm just like, well, this is the new thing I think we implemented for ÖTILLÖ. So we could start a race, and then we trusted our organization, and we can trust our communication line, and everyone was where they were supposed to be, and they did what they were supposed to be. And it's all about planning. So we planned everything ahead really well. And then you never know. Of course, there's always one moment at each race where you have to work a little more. Someone get injured, or someone is missing, or someone ran the wrong way, or something like that. And normally everything happens at the same time. So that's nothing new. It's nothing new. You just have to deal with it when it appears. And the better the planning you've done, the easier it is to solve, to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So
nice.
It was, I was very proud about all the volunteers and the staff, and that's one thing I value a lot, is all the volunteers. Without the volunteers, this is impossible for us to organize. It would be totally impossible to keep everyone safe. And in Sweden, we don't have the culture really to volunteer for free. It's not, I lived 11 years in the US, and in US it's totally different. There you can volunteer for many different things for free, and you just do it because it's part of culture. But here it's not like that. Most volunteers, they want to get paid and so on. So it's a little different to host a race in Sweden compared to elsewhere in the world. That way.
Well, if you didn't have any feedback about how the races run, your behind the scenes work must have been really good. That way, there was nothing flared up.
No,
So that's
yeah,
kudos.
there was a lot of people approached me after the race and said, "So, which number of hosting ÖTILLÖ races was this?" I mean, it was my first. And really, your first one? Yeah, it was our first one. Oh, that's amazing. So people were, but I added, like, it's not the first race.
Right, exactly. You have a long resume of experience, and honestly, I mean, ÖTILLÖ is great. It's hard and everything, but setting up a 5-day adventure race, that seems obviously like it's an enhanced skill set. You have a PhD in race directing for this type of thing. Now,
I normally say I have a black belt in race directing, but when I'm cocky, but then things have went wrong through the years too. So
of course,
you have to be humble about that as well.
Of course. Now, an interesting thing about this World Championship that's coming up. Obviously, it'll be it's a race that you've done many times. It's a race that you worked at the very first one. Are you excited about that? Are you nervous? Or give us a little bit of your sort of thought process. That race is now a few months away. How are you feeling about it?
I love this World Championship. Yeah, I am probably the one who made or done the course most of the times. I lived on Sandhamn for 8 summers, and I could train daily on the course, which was a big advantage. And I think, to become really good at something, I think you have to, knowledge is the key. When you understand how to race, if you want to race fast, for example, then you actually can race faster, but you have to understand it first and know how to do it. And that normally takes experience and years. And I could collect years of racing the ÖTILLÖ course like everyone else. They could just do it once a year. I could do 10 ÖTILLÖs in one summer easily. And I even had people, exactly. I had people coming in from all over the world contacting me, asking if I could train with them on the course the last few years. So I have great local knowledge, and since I worked on Sandhamn, I know a lot of people there and in the archipelago. So I'm super excited to host the World Championship in September, definitely. With that said, it's also probably the most complex race we organize the whole year.
Yeah.
The number of participants isn't great. It's only 170 teams, but with boats and all the swim sections, and since it's A to B, this is the only swim run event in the World Series where you have an A to B course, that makes things way more complicated. So I'm preparing for that now with my team, and it feels like we are getting there each day. We're getting one step closer. But now also, when you started the season like this, the planning should have been almost done for the World Championship already. So now we're working more with details, because next in our mind now is Engadin.
Yeah.
So and then after Engadin it's Gothenburg, and then we have Final 15, and then we have the World Championship in Cannes. So I'm psyched to be back. Normally I'm visiting Sandhamn and Utö a few times every summer with my family, and now I get to go back there and host the World Championship, which is that feels really, really, really fun, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be an extra special day for you, and you've had many special days on there to start for sure. But this one will be up top, I'm sure. No Nokia inflatable mattresses this year. Are you reinstituting this rule, or
Yeah, can we get some bikes on Orna?
Chris and I specifically for the bike for Orna,
Exactly.
please?
Oh, it's funny because I was talking about this the other day with a participant on UTÖ, and so you watched when they won with the inflatable mattresses the first year? Yeah. And I've raced with the guy several times after that. Yeah, Petri Forsman. I think that's he's from the adventure racing background as well, and
Yeah.
they're so used to develop new ideas and techniques and implement them into races. So people think it's cheating, and it's funny how smart they are sometimes.
Yeah.
I run into this as an organizer, both in the Adventure Racing World Series and in other sports that we host, the local multisport races. People show up with new gadgets and gears that you've never seen before, and it helps them a lot. So who knows if someone will find another way to sneak through the rules we have. There's always a gray zone somewhere that we have missed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be hard to sneak in a inflatable mattress, though. And, and the,
can
and
you imagine you're just like blowing it up while you're running?
Yeah, exactly.
You're about to start. You just see it coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that you mention it that way because it was kind of genius, right? It's the first one.
Yeah.
There weren't that many. You really had adventure racing types. Swedish, special forces types there. And it's like, no one said that you couldn't do that, right? So that seemed like a good way to get from A to B. But I also think it's interesting, as you alluded to, you've seen the sort of the gear and sort of tactical evolution of the sport since the beginning. And I think the way the sport is raced now compared to even 5-6 years ago, it's so much faster. The gear is so much more advanced. I'm curious, from your experience, where do you see the next sort of loophole being exploited on the gear side of things?
Yeah. I've been being part of developing a lot of the gear we're using today with Arc Swimrun and Head before that, and with paddles and the towing line. We totally took it from the adventure racing, like boom. And you just never know. I actually think why we race faster today, or why they race faster today, is because now you can train more specifically towards swimrun. When I started, you were either a swimmer or a runner. But now you can start out as a swim runner. That's the biggest difference, I think. Just look at Hugo and Max. Like, their whole training schedule is specified to become as fast as they can for swimrun. They don't. Well, Hugo is doing a lot of running races, but they don't do triathlon races. They don't do adventure racing. They only do swimrun. And I think that's the biggest difference between when I was racing and today. I think I did my last race 2018, and by that time, I just won the European Championship in adventure racing, and then I did a biking race, and then all of a sudden it was the World Championship, or it was Utö Swimrun, I think Utö Swimrun was actually my last race too. So ironically. And but I was doing so many other things, and that's the biggest difference, I would say today, that people are only training to become swim runners, which is cool, and that's part of like it turning into a sport. And I would love to support these people, helping them by creating great events, also creating opportunities for new sponsor contracts, because that's I think that's one natural next step for the sport. New destinations and creating new opportunities for our athletes to become professional. And we've been talking a lot about professional athletes and like we need more of those, but also of course we need these people into just look at Utö now. Sprint and experience were the biggest categories. They were bigger than the World Series event, and they're super important as well. Sure. But they need idols, someone to look at. Oh, I want to be like Max and Hugo and Desiree. I want to race like them. What are they doing so well, and why? They need to ask these questions to themselves to develop, so that's why we're looking into different new models to attract these people as well. I
mean, that's a really good point. I mean, we've talked about that on the show a lot, actually, on the idea that, to inspire, you look at someone like Oscar Olsen, right? Like an amazing personality, really great guy. Yeah. But people, if you're outside of Sweden or you're not familiar with swimmer, you don't know who this person is, right? So how can he inspire you to do amazing, incredible things if you don't know that they exist, right? So one of the reasons with this show is, highlighting people who we think are super amazing. Like, we think, if I can speak for Chipper, the Desiree, if there's a Swimrun Hall of Fame, like she better be in there first ballot. She's just an incredible athlete who's also happens to be an amazing human being. Same thing with people like Marika Wagner. I mean, she races without goggles on, and she's just a beast, and she can do everything from a multi-stage, mountain bike race across South Africa to racing the world championship the next week. Like it's not a problem. Like there are amazing stories to tell, and I do agree. Like creating or helping to support a professional class inspires people coming into the sport, and to get them to cut your teeth, try the experience or the sprint race, and then imagine what's possible. And within the sport, within for yourself, challenge your what you thought your limitations were. And it's just such an important piece of it. And I think, one thing that ÖTILLÖ historically has done amazing is sort of, use video and media to show sort of not just the majesty of the events, but also the people and the community and things like that. And I'm curious, what are ÖTILLÖ's plans to kind of, I'm assuming it's continuing to do that because everyone loves these videos, but if you have any sort of specifics on how can you help support sort of the professional class and with sponsorships and all that stuff by continuing to tell these stories?
Well, we're dependent on each other there. It's not only our task to create videos for our athletes. Me as an adventure racer, I was one of the few in the world who can support my living through adventure racing. And that community is to be compared with the swimrun community in size. But also, like, I took fully responsibility. I couldn't trust an organizer to provide me with material that I could show my sponsors, or that I could make a case out of and show a potential sponsor. Do you want to sponsor me? Mm-hmm. So we will definitely, and by doing this, I always had my own photographer at our races. And I asked the organization, instead of asking for pictures, I asked, can you help my photographer with transportation and maps for the course so they know where to go, and more logistics. Mm-hmm. And that helped me a lot, instead of asking for pictures in the end, and maybe they had 2 of me when I needed 20. Mm-hmm. But by doing that journey myself, I also know how important it is for a race. So you can only look at my other races that I'm hosting, Nordic Islands Adventure Race, which is part of the Adventure Racing World Series, plus or Extreme Week, which is a full week with multi-sport races at the biggest ski resort in Sweden. And then we have another multi-sport race tour traveling through Sweden through the spring. And we spend most of our money goes towards photographers and film, because that's how we support our brand too, to stay both active, because you have to be so active nowadays to be seen, and also creating like a bank with pictures and content and material. And we will continue this. I love, it's one of the things I love with organizing is to creating all these cool stories and cool content that other might be interested of. And the hardest part is to reach out, like to pay an extra €100 for an ad on Facebook. It doesn't give anything anymore. It used to, but now you have to be more consistent to be seen a lot. ÖTILLÖ's strength is that we have a lot of contacts with written media, like newspapers, daily newspapers, and television. And not many race organizations have these contacts as we do. And I think that could be one being a big advantage to actually be able to create something, something like this to move towards this goal. But it should be a common goal, as said in the beginning. You have to realize it's both but also the athletes. What do you say? They have to share our content, and we can share their content. So, yeah.
I like that. How I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this, and I think Ironman Triathlon has this problem as well, is that how do you think about a live video, like a streaming kind of event showcasing a race, especially one as complex as ÖTILLÖ? Seems like a challenge I wouldn't even want to approach, honestly. But how important is that play into kind of the sponsorship piece of it? Or do you think you can get a lot of that done with really incredible social media videos and YouTube videos and having good amplification from the community? Or do you think a marquee live event for the whole entirety of the races is one piece that is going to be critical for the sponsorship kind of elite category that you're speaking about?
Yeah, no, I don't think live is that important anymore. Like, it used to be really important. I hosted a race a few years ago back, and we did a 3-hour live coverage of an adventure race, and we had 1 million views, which was amazing. Even Red Bull Media House called me after and asked me how I did it. And I was just like, well, we just had everyone share our link, like all our sponsors, athletes, everyone, family members, and that's how it like just reacted. And we were lucky enough that YouTube, the algorithm chose us at the right moment. But for example, like when I was racing and they were hosting ÖTILLÖ World Championship live, they had so few views. No one sit and watch for 7 hours. There's one event that does this in Sweden that is super successful with it, and it's Vasaloppet. But they finished, in 3 hours and 45 minutes. And it starts early in the morning, so people can have breakfast in front of the TV. It's on a Sunday, and they have a slow morning. And then by 11 o'clock, the winners have already crossed the finish line. It's a little different with the ÖTILLÖ, because then you race 7 hours or just under 7 hours.
Not us.
Yeah, you'll have to keep the show going for 10 hours for us.
You're gonna have to get some more bandwidth for us.
And that's it would maybe work if an already established TV show or TV program choose to do this, but at this time I can't see who that would be. I have a lot of contacts within the Swedish television, and they say it's too complicated, but we've already shown that it's possible. It's just have to be lined up in a studio, a little more professional, with guests and everything. And I would love to do that, but there's no point if no one's watching it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, and how could people watch it if they didn't know it exists? So
yeah,
maybe one day in the future, let's say 5 years from now, we can do it, and we have a lot of views. But as of now, we have a really strong YouTube channel, so let's use it. We have a really strong. We just reached over 24,000 followers on Instagram. Let's use it.
Nice.
And we have good contacts with written media internationally, not just locally in Sweden. And we still have all these small sport channels, and as long as they talk about us, we're moving one step closer all the time. And I think you have to be consistent and never give up here. I refer a lot to the adventure racing, but there's so much you learn. And, both Mick and Lemmel and Mats Scott, they were also from the adventure racing background. Mm-hmm. And we always say, never stop. That's when you lose time. Always keep moving. And it's the same thing running a business. You have to always look ahead and keep moving and believe in what you're doing. And then learn from whatever mistake either you do or other does to move forward. So... yeah, it's an interesting future for sure, and I'm very glad that I'm part of it.
Well, Staffan, we've had you on for a while. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation, and just thank you for spending some time with us, sharing about your background, your hopes for the future, and I think. This is a new chapter for ÖTILLÖ, and I think we're all rooting for you, and we're all very excited to what the future holds. And just want to thank you for taking on this immense responsibility. We look forward to seeing you in Sweden and giving you a couple hugs, maybe sharing a fika. Thank you so much for taking the time, and congrats on your first race directing at Utö.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for that fika.
We won't cap it at one. If you need to go more fikas, we're here for it. We're here for it.
Yes, we're racing the Swim World Championship, but Chipper is also participating in the Fika World Championship, which is not as popular, but very important for him.
That's awesome. No, I love you. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to. Yeah, it was funny because I brought on board my colleague Micke Hanell as well, and we do this really well together, and we've done it for 5 years now. And he approached me so many years ago, like, Staffan, we should do something together, like organizing a race. And that was the time period when I was aiming to win ÖTILLÖ and win the Adventure Racing World Championship and all that. And so I was just like, yeah, sure, another day. And then I approached him 5 years ago, and now it's the time. Do you want to join, or do you want to you don't? And luckily for me, he joined in. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's my full-time job now to do this and to host all our races. And he's creating that opportunity for me by not taking out the salary from our company yet. So he's doing other everyday jobs, to help me live my dream, and do this as well as we can. It's with great respect. I really appreciate, what he's doing to create that opportunity, and I think that will reflect also how I lead our team. to create good events. Definitely.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it. Yeah, well, we'll make sure to buy him his fika then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Fika's on
My
us.
fika. Definitely.
At
He
least one.
loves cinnamon buns and a coffee. That's
We're already sounding fast
Yes.
friends.
Yes, gotta have multiple canelbulars. Well, Staffan, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate you. And we'll see you in Sweden in a few months.
Yeah, can't wait. We'll really looking forward to meet you guys in person.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Sure. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.